So overnight, there was quite an exciting thing that happened. The legend himself, Jeremy J.J. Coulthard, or as I like to call him, DJJ Coulthard, released a few Toontown Online design documents that Toontown Rewritten had already digitally scanned, but had not shared publicly. Here's hoping this inspires Toontown Rewritten to scan the rest of these documents, as honestly, high-quality scanning is not needed for these design documents. And Jeremy and I would both love to credit Toontown Rewritten as the ones coming forward with these incredible pieces of Toontown history. Link in the description to the Reddit post containing these documents. But today, we're here to talk about Doodles. That's right, finally, some content on Doodles. The Toontown Pets Design Document. Let's just go ahead and just scroll right through this and document what details it contains, shall we? First off, this document details the intended launch date for both test and live servers. August 8th, 2004 was the aim for Test Toontown, with August 30th, 2004 being the live launch date. In reality, that was actually missed for some unclear reason. Doodles went live on Test Toontown on August 20th, 2004, missing the original aim date by 17 days, and onto the live servers on September 3rd. So with that said, we move on to the goals of the pet system. The listed goals were to 1. Improve Toontown's stickiness by increasing emotional attachment and instilling a sense of responsibility. This meaning they wanted to introduce pets as a way for players to get attached to the game and kind of give them a reason to keep coming back. Likely the thought being that if you adopt a pet or have a pet, you'll want to keep coming back to take care of it or spend time with it, or at least that's the goal, as stated. Number 2, increased sense of urgency for trialers to subscribe. I presume this ties into a system of locking pets behind the subscription paywall, or perhaps thinking that features players may want involving pets are locked behind a subscription that inspire players to more or less beg for the credit card. Number 3, provide new marketing-friendly feature. I'm not sure how big the marketing push was for Doodles in the public forum, but it makes sense. Advertising that you have cute, cuddly pets in your massively multiplayer game sounds like great marketing potential on paper. We did have the small few blog posts about Flippy's Doodle Fluffy going missing and then being found with all the other Doodles in Toontown, but I don't really recall any other advertisement. Number 4, add multiplayer interest to estates. This goal will go into further with this document, but basically I think a lot of this goal was unachieved. Yes, there still is the bringing Doodles with you when going to a friend's estate, but pretty much any multiplayer interest is relatively non-existent. And 5, introduce new and different gameplay experiences. I think this point can be taken somewhat unsurprisingly, I would say. A feature like a pet system would almost always try to be brought forward as a way to differentiate gameplay, although a lot was unachieved. Again, we'll go into that. So now we take a look at the pet system overview. Let's do a comparison to what we got today. Number 1, every new toon has a pet waiting for them. Not true. In the finalized system, you did have to adopt your doodle from a shop in one of the playgrounds. Number 2, pets must be cared for, feeding, playing, or they get unhappy. Somewhat true. I think to some degree it was explored in Toontown Online with doodles getting lonely if you're away for too long, but ultimately it never really mattered. Number 3, pets live in the estate and estate houses. Yes and no. They did end up living in estates, but nothing involving the houses. Number 4, toons bring their pets with them when visiting another toon's estate. This one is completely true and made it to the final product. Number 5, pets that live at an estate can show up even though their owners are not logged in. This is true, but kind of a weird thing to note as it doesn't really do much gameplay-wise, but if you logged onto another toon on the same account, the doodle from your other toons would still be there. And 6, toons can purchase new pets and trade in old pets at pet shops. Mostly true. You can return a doodle and adopt a new one, but you could never trade in a doodle for anything. So now, having gone over the goals and the overview, we move on to the actual pet's specifications. There's some really interesting stuff in here. Doodles have a body, 2 feet, mouth, and eyes, exactly as we got. Here's a really fun one. Are 2 feet tall on average, about 1/3 toon height. This means that we can now officially document the average toon height is 6 feet tall. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Stack 3 doodles high and you have an average 6-foot tall toon. Do what you will with this information. Are differentiated by color and pattern, spot pattern, fur, scales, etc. More or less true. It's interesting that they say scales, as I don't recall there being a scaly doodle. I believe they had intended for more design for doodles. Have simple single-word, two-part names that the owner chooses with a name picker. Absolutely true. I love my little microwave. Can burrow into and out of the ground to teleport. Still true, they burrow in and out of the ground when teleporting. Seem like real animals. This is a long one, so bear with me. We'll do it rapid-fire style. Are free-roaming and autonomous? I'd say so. Not the brightest AI, but they're kinda free-roaming. Are aware of pets and toons around them? I'd say so. They like to latch onto toons, and I assume other doodles too. Have a focus of attention. Eyes that focus on objects like toons' eyes. I haven't personally noticed the eyes too closely, but they do have very expressive-looking eyes, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if this were true. Communicate with toons and other pets through icons and emotes. Sort of. There's not a lot of communication with doodles, but you're always able to tell when they're tired or affectionate or things like that. Respond to certain speed chat statements. This is true. Even if we don't include the trick phrases, they can respond positively to the nice doodle phrases as well as negatively to stinky phrases. Have emotions, happy, excited, angry, sad, etc. This is true. It's not expansive, but it does exist. Get hungry and lonely when not taken care of. This system definitely existed to some degree. I don't know how well it was truly explored, but I do remember specifically doodles acting this way at some point in time. Are fed jelly beans by toons? Yup, I can feed microwave or whatever you name your doodle a jelly bean at a time, anytime I want. Can follow toons and pets around the estate? Absolutely, they did manage to get this system in. Can be chased by toons and pets. This system never made it in as far as I'm aware, but it sounds like it would have been a small but fun little system to do. To be fair, I love kind of idly running around in the game sometimes while I just think about stuff, so thinking that there'd be a time where I could chase my doodle, I'd probably enjoy it. And now we move to pet shops and their specifications. We'll keep the rapid fire theme going. They're located in playgrounds. Absolutely right. Existing pet shop clerks NPCs will be moved into the shops. I'm not sure what this one means actually. I'm assuming maybe NPCs that were in shops and playgrounds themed to pets would be moved into the pet shop, or maybe they meant the fishermen since they tied into the pet shop with their dialogue. Not sure here. Toons can trade in their pet for a different pet. We already covered this, but mostly true. Grace period so that you can change your mind about getting rid of a pet. Not true. Once you yeet poor microwave back into the pet shop, he's good as gone. Some patterns are more rare than others, therefore more valuable. This is interesting because it really gives you an insight on how doodles were planned to work. And it did kind of make it into the game. When you get to Donald's Dreamland, doodles that have the highest value, they have all these unique patterns and appearances that you pretty much didn't get elsewhere. It's just never really talked about or explained. And now we move to the fun part, future expansion. The kind of stuff that absolutely never saw the light of day. The kind of stuff that gets me out of the bed in the morning hearing about and thinking about. Let's get to it. The pet system will be designed from the ground up with expansion in mind. Shall we ask Toontown Rewritten how they feel about Doodle's expandability, considering they had to already rewrite a lot of it just to make it work? They go on to say something really cool here though. Some of the code, particularly the AI infrastructure modifications, will be useful for Pirates of the Caribbean. A mention of Podco from 2004. Pirates of the Caribbean Online wouldn't be mentioned publicly until April 26, 2005, much later. The expansion overview. 1. New toons get a pet egg instead of a pet. We're already charting new territory here. They have a section for pet eggs later, so we'll go into detail then. Number 2. Pets can be customized with clothing. I would love for that. Doodles having little hats on or some other clothing would be really fun, but obviously it was never considered seriously. Number 3. New pet species released periodically. I don't think they meant species as in an all-new kind of pet. I think they meant more design-wise, like stripes or scales as they previously mentioned, which, as far as I'm aware, involving new designs being released, never happened. 4. Pets can cheer up toons in battle just before they get sad. Kind of. We have calling doodles into battle for a quick heal that unfortunately isn't very useful. We'll go into detail further on this in a second, it's very interesting. 5. Toons can play pet games in their estate with friends and their pets. Absolutely no existence of something like this, sadly. 6. Pets have more varied behavior, are a little smarter, and more realistic. Not really sure how you can make them smarter or more realistic, but it's safe to say we never got this. Number 7. Pet parks off of playgrounds. Gasp! Doodle Parks confirmed? There was apparently also a slight mention of this at Toonfest 2007, but was never mentioned again anywhere else afterwards. Again, we'll go into detail on this in its own section. So let's now talk about these pet eggs. Toons must care for the pet egg until it hatches. Sure, egg is stored in your Toon's house. You must talk to the egg and pet it. Kept in an incubator in the Toon's house. More nurturing variety mechanics included, such as keeping it at the right temperature and needing to rock it. Toons can buy crib toys for the egg, like a blanket and teddy bear. Pet is named when hatched. And finally, of course, hatch timing can be adjusted for maximum pull on trialers. So they had big plans to go all out on attracting what I think is a more casual player with this system. I can imagine younger kids and casual players loving the heck out of caring for their very own doodle egg, gathering up jelly beans to buy it blankets and teddy bears and slowly rock it as it gets closer and closer to hatching. And then of course, it's timed so that you have to spend a chunk of money before you ever do hatch it. Overall though, I think it sounds almost going over the top. Reading this felt kind of like a fanfic feature rather than something that was actually intended for the future of Toontown's pet system. What do you guys think about the pet egg system? Let me know in the comments below. So let's go into detail about future expansions to pets directly. 1. More types of pets. Again, didn't happen. 2. Dog houses for pets in the estate. Would have been cool, but never happened. 3. More varieties of food. Not sure of the use, but we definitely didn't get any doodle chow. 4. Can be customized with hats, shoes, and tails. Doodles did already come with tails of varying degrees, but it would have been nice to have a system where you could customize your doodle, and it probably would have improved the experience for casual players. 5. Can learn tricks. This one did happen, allowing for doodles to do tricks to heal Toons. 6. React to emotions of nearby Toons and pets. Very minorly, but there was a slight system for this as described earlier involving speed chat phrases like the stinky ones. 7. May not be aware of everything around them. Can be surprised, teased, tricked. We definitely did not get any kind of surprised system or teasing system for doodles. 8. Remember things. Like, this Toon has given me a lot of jelly beans. Microwave will remember that. Never got any kind of remembrance system for doodles, and I'm not quite sure of the purpose? Maybe they show more affection towards these kinds of people that they remember? 9th on the list, have personality quirks, likes, dislikes, habits. We never had any real personality explored with doodles. It might have been just too over the top to try and develop these features when other things in the game could take much more precedent, and as such, were never considered. 10th on the list, can walk through doors on their own. Absolutely not. No doodles in the estates. Imagine if your doodle could just roam around, pop into houses whenever they pleased, go inside with you. That would have been cool. I know a lot of people wanted that feature. 11. Play frisbee fetch with Toons. I'm not sure how exactly this would work, but I'm imagining maybe like a power meter type thing that throws the frisbee a certain distance, but safe to say we never got this. New pet species, aka texture patterns, released monthly that are easy to create and available to existing Toons via the pet shop. Obviously a system that was going to be designed to try and extend the life of interest for players in pets. But this idea was never utilized or explored. It could have actually turned into something pretty interesting if marketed well to players. Imagine, new rare doodles drop for a limited time and you have to splash those jelly beans to get them. I'm sure you probably could have generated interest in it. Now we get into some very interesting stuff and look at Pet Park's specifications. It would be 1. A massively multiplayer space where Toons get a chance to interact with non-friend Toons and pets. So, as expected, you take your doodle to the Doodle Park, and it'd essentially be like a big virtual dog park. I imagine they had ideas in mind for more than just interaction, such as frisbees or some kind of multiplayer games you could play at this Doodle Park. Otherwise, it would be kind of boring just to kind of stand around with doodles, wouldn't it? And number 2, it would be located off of playgrounds. So I imagine there'd be a doodle park for every playground, or at least a few of them, kind of like a fishing pond spot or an HQ in every playground. Now we look at specifics on the pets in battle system. 1. Pets burrow up into a battle and cheer up, aka revive a Toon that is going sad. Imagine a scenario where you sat in a battle, but before you left, your doodle came and saved you. It's really quite an interesting idea, but I think balance concerns are great here. I also talked to Jeremy personally on this point, and he suggested something funny where, what if the doodle did have this feature, but it still played out like the existing heal, where it's just RNG, so your toon's there, the doodle pops up and you're begging them to pull off the trick to save you. They fail and you have to watch as you're doomed to go back to the playground frustrated at your doodle. It'd be funny. Secondly, pets must be nurtured to accumulate revives. So basically, taking care of your pet, playing fetch with them, feeding them, etc. would earn you revives. I could imagine maybe you could make it balanced enough where if you're truly spending some real time with your doodle, you could earn a rare revive every so often, but it's such just an overpowered reward that it's easy to see why they wouldn't have considered it seriously. Let alone having to rework the battle system a bit, I believe, to support this revive system, but that's more a technical issue that I need not to go too into. Thirdly, pets gain experience and level up, giving a more effective revive, more laugh points restored after reviving, and increased revive capacity. So an element kind of like this system somewhat made it in the sense that you can level up your tricks that you teach your doodle and in turn get more points when healing, but it makes sense in this conceptual system that you'd be able to improve your doodle and have an extra system to grind for. Overall, the battle proposals definitely would have made doodles an actually formidable battle inclusion. If you could save yourself every once in a while by having your doodle, you'd probably want one for sure. And you'd probably actually want to spend time with your doodle to get the rewards. Now, is it balanced? That's a very difficult thing to explore. Maybe if the grind was immense enough where racking up revives was pretty difficult, maybe? It is Toontown, so having some rather forgiving systems is kind of in its nature, so I could have seen it working if it was balanced very delicately. Last but not least, we go into pet games specifics. They'd have been estate activities for any number of toons and their pets. The first one is pet golf, and bear with me, this gets kinda weird. Pets transform into outsized golf balls, meaning exceptionally large golf balls. You can shoot pet ball out of cannon, which is like a drive in golf. You can influence pet ball's flight path with arrow keys. Once landed, fling pet ball towards hole, putt, similar to the fishing interface. So basically, there'd be some kind of golf course set up in the parks, I'd assume, or maybe estates, where you could launch your pet ball doodle as a drive, then fling putt them into the hole with like the fishing click drag system. Very interesting, very unique, and ambitious. We never got quite anything like that, but the driving system kind of sounds a little bit like party cannons when you aim your toon for the clouds. The second game was Pet Hop. Pets transform into large bouncy spheres. I guess it's canon that doodles can transform into shapes all of a sudden. Also do what you will with that information. Toons would then ride said pet spheres bouncing around the estate. You can only influence direction and speed at the instant of landing, so basically choosing where you're going and how fast at specifically the contact with the ground. You can knock other toons off by landing on them, a la Joust. So kind of like a ground pound type move. Supports large team and free-for-all games such as Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, Tag, Joust, Halo Race, and World Ball, pushing the large ball into the other team's goal. So they had plans for fun Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, and Tag game modes that I think are pretty straightforward, and you could imagine what those would entail in combination with the pet spheres. Joust would be interesting because it would kind of be like the first heads-on any kind of player versus player action outside maybe trolley games. Halo Race is, I assume, the racing system used in Halo Combat Evolved, where you had to get to checkpoints the fastest and be the first one to complete the loop. And World Ball, am I getting a little bit of a sense of a Rocket League type game here? They were kind of ahead of their time with these game concepts. Overall, it's an extremely interesting look behind the scenes at the pet system. A lot of stuff here obviously wasn't developed, but it's so cool to see the original thoughts and ideas that they had behind these fundamental game systems. I only hope these coming to the surface inspire Toontown Rewritten to scan and publicize these game documents. And thank you again to JJ Coulthard for sharing these. And also make sure you look out for my other video uploaded today on landmark buildings, the foundational concept behind what would eventually be cog buildings. Thank you all for watching.